Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. New cases of the coronavirus in the United States have surged to the highest level in 2 months. The U.S. reported 34,700 new cases yesterday. That's more than on any single day since April 24th. Hospitalizations are also on the rise in at least 14 states. Well, Montana added 23 new cases this morning. Then Bighorn County announced 2 more late this afternoon. The total active cases tonight sits at 174. 17 people are hospitalized tonight. So far, 20 Montana counties have reported 0 cases. Well, a Billings nursing home resident tested positive for COVID-19. That person is a resident at Aventura Billings and we're told is in stable condition in the hospital. Michael Spidell, the regional director of operations there, says in a news release that he's not aware of any other residents or staff testing positive for COVID-19. But the resident had recently been admitted to Aventura after receiving treatment at another healthcare facility. Meanwhile, Governor Steve Bullock says starting tomorrow, he'll issue a directive allowing assisted living and nursing facilities to allow visitors under strict guidelines. And MSU Billings sending out a notice of a positive case on its campus. The news release does not state whether the person is a student, staff member, or employee, but does say that the last time the patient was on campus was Friday, June 19th in the PE building. Well, contact tracing has helped find people connected with those who've tested positive for COVID-19. Governor Bullock and health officials talked today about a spike in cases at a news conference. Q2's David Jay joins us from the newsroom with more on the cases that started in Bighorn County and later involved Yellowstone County. David?
Well, Russ, Governor Bullock talked about the increase in cases and that Montana, that is the 3rd lowest per capita in the country. He also said it's important to take steps to prevent the further spread of COVID-19.
Learning more about the virus and how it interacts in our communities is certainly critical as we move forward in navigating these times. And it's also important to underscore that even if a community or a county is free of the virus today, this does not mean that Montanans can let their guard down.
A diagram at the news conference shows that positive cases in Bighorn County, those in green, led to finding positive cases in Yellowstone County in blue.
Right now, the recommendation is to test all close contacts, and if you test positive, then you become a case and you get isolated. If you don't test positive, you're going to be a close contact and you're going to be asked to quarantine.
Some of these cases had additional contacts who became cases in Yellowstone County. Some of that was through necessary events like medical appointments. And some of those medical appointments were conducted by having folks travel in a group together to these appointments. So this is one of the areas that we discovered is where we could maybe prevent things from happening in future clusters.
And another investigation in Custer County is showing the possibility of contacts in 4 other counties. Russ?
All right, thank you, David. Well, President Trump hosted Poland's president today as cases of the coronavirus continue to rise across the country. It's the first international meeting at the White House since coronavirus travel restrictions have been imposed. The 2 leaders spoke about economic development and defense. Natalie Brand has more from the White House.
President Trump hosted Polish President Andrzej Duda at the White House, where defense cooperation was a focus. The president said some U.S. troops would move from Germany to Poland.
Poland is one of the few countries that are fulfilling their obligations under NATO, in particular their monetary obligations, and they asked us if we would send some additional troops. They're going to pay for that.
President Duda is the first world leader to visit the White House since the coronavirus crisis arrived in the United States.
This is the first after COVID, after the start of the plague, as I call it.
The Polish president's trip comes just 4 days before an election in his country, seen as a way to boost his re-election campaign, which is why some have called the visit inappropriate.
I do believe he has an election coming up, and I do believe he'll be very successful.
With the U.S. election 4 months away, President Trump is not letting the coronavirus stop his campaign travel.
We're doing so well after the plague. It's going away.
The president held a campaign rally at a Phoenix church Tuesday, attended by a few thousand young supporters, many of whom did not follow public health recommendations to wear a mask. Once again, President Trump used a racist slur to describe the virus.
Coronavirus, right? Kung flu, yeah.
Earlier, White House counselor Kellyanne Conway defended his use of the term.
The virus originated in China, and had China been more transparent and honest with the United States and the world, we wouldn't have all the death and destruction that unfortunately we've suffered.
As cases have increased in more than 24 states, the president is scheduled to travel again Thursday, this time to the key battleground state of Wisconsin. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
Well, presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, who's criticized President Trump for his rhetoric and rallies during the pandemic, continues hosting virtual events. Today, a federal appeals court ordered an immediate end to the case against Michael Flynn, President Trump's first national security advisor. It comes as government prosecutors accuse Attorney General William Barr of doing the president's bidding and improperly interfering in their cases.
William Barr poses the greatest threat in my lifetime to our rule of law.
Barr's leadership was the subject of an explosive hearing today. President Trump, meanwhile, hailed the appeals court ruling, which ordered an end to the case against Michael Flynn, despite his 2 guilty pleas for perjury. More statues are coming down nationwide that demonstrators say represent repression of blacks and advocates of slavery. This while President Trump is promising executive action to protect the monuments. In Madison, Wisconsin, a statue known as Forward, a symbol for the state's motto, was toppled and dragged away last night. The removal of the statue not the only unrest in Wisconsin's capital city, as Wisconsin State Senator Tim Carpenter was attacked when photographing protesters. He says he got punched 5 or 6 times before getting kicked in the head. Also yesterday, a Christopher Columbus statue was brought down in Connecticut, while the statue of former Vice President John C. Calhoun was removed in South Carolina. Well, 57 men and women have officially joined the ranks of Montana peace officers. Families gathered at the Helena Civic Center today for the graduation ceremony of the 172nd class of the Montana Law Enforcement Academy. This class had some unprecedented challenges. COVID-19 significantly changed their training protocols, and we were one of only a few academies to continue classes this spring. The peace officers is also entering the job during a time of scrutiny towards their profession. Officers said the national spotlight on law enforcement was open conversation at the academy, and every new officer that MTN spoke with said they can't wait to start protecting their communities and making a difference in the lives of the people that live there.
I'm really excited to join law enforcement, just so I can show them just our training and everything, and what well-trained officers can actually do for public service.
We were aware of all of the things happening in the nation. It was not a topic that was off the table of discussion, but what we came up with as a class and really promised each other is that we're going to continue to do the job that we've been trained to do with integrity, respect, fairness, and impartiality. If we stick to that, I know we'll do well.
Certainly wish him luck. A former Billings banker accused of fraud crimes pleaded guilty at his trial today. 46-year-old Stephen Casher admitted to bank fraud and of money laundering in federal court today and now faces up to 30 years in prison and a $1 million fine. The former Rocky Mountain Bank loan officer approved loans to Larry Price Jr., who you see here, and also made large private high-interest loans on the side to Price without telling the bank. Price, who you might remember, was the developer of this huge Billings mansion, who also faked his own abduction. He's now awaiting sentencing on a number of federal charges, including wire fraud and money laundering. Casher faces a maximum of 30 years in prison, a $1 million fine, and 5 years of supervised release when he's sentenced in November. All right, turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire, and things are pretty calm out there right now, Bob, but that could be changing soon.
Yeah, we've got some strong winds moving into south central Montana. Let's go right to the Doppler radar. You can see it right there by Big Timber. We've had some pretty big cells move through there. Brief periods of heavy rain, high winds, and also in some cases some small hail moving through. And this thing is just outside Billings here. It's about a county 20 or so away, and so it's just a matter of time, maybe another hour or so, this thing will start making its way into the Billings area. We were expecting marginal risk of severe storms across much of western Montana, and Billings was included in that. Now, here's what's going to happen tonight. We also have this severe thunderstorm watch along the north central Montana, up there by Havre on the High Line. That's having some pretty big thunderstorms in that area. But now tomorrow, all that changes. We're just looking at some showers across the region on Thursday, kind of off and on. Most of the bigger stuff, that'll be over by the Black Hills of South Dakota and the rest of the Dakotas as well. So we'll have more on that coming your way in a few more minutes, Russ.
All right, thank you, Bob. Montana Fair 2020 is still set to begin on August 7th, but in this new normal, it seems like everything is changing. Today, the fair canceled all open competitive events. That decision impacts more than 10,000 entries for areas including culinary, art, photography, and dressmaking. However, the 4-H and FFA programs are not affected by the changes for this year's fair. Those events will now be held inside First Interstate Arena. Montana Fair also announced today a limited opportunity for Value Pass buyers to get a refund. Value Pass holders are allowed access to all days and events on the fairgrounds for one bargain price. Last week, the fair officially canceled all concerts, rodeos, and Supercross. Well, the big fireworks shows are canceled, but many people will still celebrate the 4th of July with their own backyard fireworks displays. Stands open for business across the state today. Q2's Krista Rose stopped by one on Billings West Side.
Randy Schmitz loves fireworks.
The colors, the noise, everybody around you that gets so excited gets my blood pumping too. It's just fun.
He's been selling them for 7 years, and this year, like last year, his stand is off of Shiloh Road.
I love having a stand. I meet all these interesting people. A lot of folks come from out of state. They can't do fireworks in their state, so they're crazy about whatever we have.
And what he has is a lot.
Prices here at the stand range anywhere from 50 cents to $600 for fireworks. But pound for pound, my favorite firework ever since I was a little kid, and they go for about $1.75, are the tanks. They're so cool.
So whether you're young or young at heart like me, getting fireworks is a great way to celebrate the 4th of July. Just remember to be safe and take a few tips from Randy.
I want one person to do it. I want them to put it on the ground, nothing in your hand, use appropriate lighting techniques, you know.
And as Randy was saying, safety does come first, so please always supervise children when around fireworks. Please make sure to get to a safe distance once the fireworks are lit, and always have a bucket of water or a bucket of sand nearby. Reporting in Billings, Krista Rose, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Chris. And for more information on fireworks safety, you can log on to ktvq.com. Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, we're going to learn how COVID-19 is impacting bison production here in Montana. That's next in our Montana Ag Report. And in sports, one Montana cowboy seeing a lot of green right now after capturing a record amount of money. That story coming up in just a bit.
You're watching MTN News with Janelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.